Yes. Okay. Hello. Hi. This is a really good turn, actually. There's quite a lot of new people. So for those of you that don't know me, hello, I'm Robin. I'm annoyed by that door. I'm a Microsoft AI MVP, so I tend to talk about cognitive services and chatbots and stuff like that, which is brilliant fun. And this time, I'm not doing any talking other than right now to give you an overview of kind of the lay of the land. It's going to be over to Jimmy and Jessica. Now, just kind of housekeeping stuff. Should there be a fire alarm, we're going to run around in circles and maybe go down the fire exit stairs. There shouldn't be one, but don't burn anything. Loos are around that way behind the lifts. Wi-Fi code is right there. Please don't stream and download stuff. Yeah, and many thanks to, obviously, Just Eat for hosting us in this space that was only finished yesterday. So if there are any weird tweaks and niggles, then don't be surprised, but do let us all know. And if any of you are looking for maybe working with a chatbot development team, I can thoroughly recommend the Just Eat chatbot development team. They're the guys sitting behind you with the lanyards on. So should you want to maybe join a great chatbot development team, then hassle one of these guys at some point afterwards. So we've got 2 sessions. There'll be a break in the middle where we can go and refuel. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Jimmy Engström.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Hi. Thank you so much for spending the evening with me and Jessica. So almost all companies right now are focusing on personal assistants. We have Amazon with Alexa. We have Microsoft with Cortana, Google with Google Assistant, Apple with Siri, and we have Samsung with Bixby, and also Xiaomi has some kind of personal assistant in development. I don't know the name of it, though. How many of you have an Alexa at home? A bunch of you? How many have Google Home? Fewer. Oh. Cortana? Come on. I know more of you have Windows 10. How many have Windows 10? That's better. How many have Bixby? How many use Bixby? None. I actually asked a friend of mine about, I tweeted, I wanted to try out Bixby. So how do I do that? What do I need to do? And he said, yeah, you need to get a Samsung phone. And he actually had an app to remove Bixby from his phone because he thought it was that bad. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I would love to, though. But we're not going to talk about all of those. We're just going to talk about the first 3 of them. I mean, personal assistance, that's not really anything new, right? I mean, we think that, oh, the personal assistance era is upon us. But come on, this guy. This was the first personal assistant. And everybody hated him. Poor Clippy. So I've been controlling my home for the last 18 years. Everything from things I built myself to things I bought, like Alexa, Google Home, and stuff like that. But back then, everything didn't work great. I was lucky if I actually managed to get the command to do anything. But now, things have changed. IBM and Microsoft has been competing for the best voice recognition. And the last number I saw was 5.1% error rate. They call this human level, but truth is that human level is about 6%. So this is actually better. The machines understand us better than we do. I mean, back then, for 18 years ago, I would be lucky if it was like 50%. So my name is Jim Engström. I work as a .NET developer by day in Sweden. And by night, I run a company together with my wife, Jessica, where we focus on future technologies. We focus on HoloLens, we focus on bots, because we think that these things are going to change the world. These things are actually the next cool thing. We also run a user group and a podcast called Coding After Work. So please check that out as well. We have a lot of content to go through, so please hold your questions until after the session. We will have as Robin said, we will have a break, and then we can talk about if you have any questions. That will also get to a better recording, I think. So the goal of this session is we will actually try to create a bot that will work for Alexa, that's going to work for Google Home, or actually Google Assistant, and work for Cortana. So why are we talking about these things? Well, Echo or Amazon sold tens of millions of devices just this holiday. I don't know how many that is. Is it 10? Is it 20? I don't know. But a lot of Echo devices. We try to actually figure out how many Echo devices there is, but the numbers are all over the place. So I don't know, but there's lots of them. Google has sold over 6 million Google Home devices. And mind that there's actually Google Assistant in more than 400 million devices. So possibly we can reach over 400 million devices by focusing on Google Assistant. Cortana, this is an old number, but Cortana has 145 million monthly active users. So I'm not talking about actual users that might have access to Cortana. I'm talking about users that actually use it every month. Now, this is over Windows, Android, iOS, and Xbox. So it's not one of those home devices. Does anyone have a Cortana home device? No? I actually got my hands on one. I didn't bring it because it's kind of big and weighs a lot. But I can really recommend it. For me, I mean, I'm a Windows development MVP. Of course, I'm going to talk good stuff about Microsoft. I love Microsoft products. But I've actually tried all of these platforms. I've compared them. And I think that Cortana, even though that Alexa can do way more stuff, I think that Cortana is more personal. Is that a good thing? I don't know. So the really, really cool thing, though, is that Amazon and Microsoft have said, hey, let's work together. Let's make Alexa available on Cortana devices and Cortana available on Alexa devices. Now, I don't think this is going to be revolutionary. I think it's a really, really cool cooperation. But the thing is, I will have to say, Alexa, connect me to Cortana, and then talk to Cortana. I would have loved to see some other kind of cooperation, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Does anyone know who this guy is? Yes, Alan Turing. He's best known for actually cracking the German Enigma cipher. Cipher. Thank you. But he's also known for the Turing test. So that's the test that is going to, if you have a bot and you have a person, and if the bot can actually fool you into actually being, you think it's a person, you have passed the Turing test. Now, Microsoft did a really, really cool project called Tay.ai. Anyone heard of it? Yeah. So basically what they did was they put a Twitter bot, a bot on Twitter actually I should say, and let it learn from human behavior. Less than 24 hours from launch, they actually had to pull the bot because it had become racist, it had become, filling Twitter with all kind of nonsense. So Microsoft did the right thing, they pulled the bot. Now, I would have wished they did that with something else as well. But we're not going to talk about those kinds of bots. We're going to talk about the one-off bots, for example. So I will be able to ask the the personal assistant for something, and I'm going to get a reply back. Now, Amazon calls this a skill. Cortana or Microsoft calls it a skill. Google Home calls it an action. And to do this, you actually, for example, for bot framework, you're actually going to do a bot. So there's a lot of things. We have actions, skills, and bots. Now, these things are the same thing. You can ask something and you can get back a reply. Pretty simple. Now, what we're going to do travel skill for Stockholm. I'm from Stockholm. I'm sure you can translate this into London subway or anything like that as well. I wanted to be able to answer 2 questions. I wanted to be able to answer, when does the next bus leave? And when does the next 818 bus leave? An utterance is the question, basically. So what kind of question do I want to get answered? Well, what is the words I will utter? There, hence the utterance. I have to explain utterance a lot more in Sweden because it's a word that we don't use very frequently. But I guess you guys do, right? No? Okay. So what we do is we take these utterances and translate them into an intent. So an intent is basically the action that I want the bot to do. So in our case, I want 3 intents. I want the next transport intent. I want the line, it's going to show when the next bus leaves. And I want the line intent that's going to show when the next whatever line is actually leaving. And then I will have a, what are you talking about? Intent as well. I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but you will see it in some samples. You can also use slots. So slots is basically a group that will identify a specific word, or in our case, number. So we're going to have 2 slots. We're going to have line number, that is going to be 818, for example, and we're going to have transport type. So bus, underground, ferry, commuter train, and stuff like that. Now, the beautiful thing is that for all these platforms, you can send SSML, so speech synthesis markup language. And that just stopped working. I apparently have a Java runtime update. There we go. So the beautiful thing is that I can emphasize a specific word. That's a big car. Or I can say, take a deep breath and then continue. Or I can even change everything. I can change the audio completely to a WAV file that I supply. So when we try this later on, you will hopefully hear that Swedish stops pronounced in English is going to sound like rubbish. So what I could have done, but I haven't done it here, I could have changed just that word to an MP3 pronouncing it in Swedish. I actually have a prototype for that as well. So let's start with Alexa. Now, I'm actually cheating a little bit because I know that conference Wi-Fi's are not always stable, so I actually have a lot of PowerPoint showing how to set this up. So the first thing you do is you go to developer.amazon.com. There you will be presented with these two selections. So we want to do an Alexa skill kit. So let's choose that one. Here I will, all my bots will be shown, and we can create a new one. And we'll get a couple of things that we need to fill out. Now, the first thing we need to choose is custom interaction model, smart home skill, flash briefing, or video skill. We want to do a custom interaction model because we want our bots to do a specific thing. Smart home is for like controlling lights and stuff like that. And they have a specific set of APIs that I can use to get that working. We also have flash briefing that is more like today's news or something like that. They also have a bunch of APIs specific already done for us. And we have a video skill API for video. But we're not going to use any of those. We're going to use the custom interaction model. We also name it. In our case, we name it Stockholm Travel, and we also have the invocation name as Stockholm Travel. Now, the invocation name is Alexa, ask Stockholm Travel. That's the invocation name. When the next, and so on. So the next thing we need to figure out is this an audio player? No, it's not. We're not going to play MP3s and stuff like that. We could, but is it a video app? No. Is it a render template? No. So the next thing is that we're going to go into the interaction model, where we can choose the Launch Skill Builder button. And here how many have worked with any of these, Alexa, Google Home, or Botframework? Not a lot of you. Oh, a couple of them. Okay, sweet. So we're going to get a couple of intents for free. This is the list of intents. We're going to get the cancel intent. We're going to get help intent. We're going to get the stop intent. So all of these three we get by default. So let's create a new one. So let's click Add. We also get a couple of possible help intents. It's these guys here. So if we're actually going to use, we want to use actors, books, book series, calendars, or something like that, we can add these, and it will automatically add those intents that we actually need to use, and also the different entities. But we're not going to use those. We're going to name our intent next transportation and click Create. Now, we have a couple of utterances that we want this to cover. When does the next bus leave? When does the next subway leave, or underground? Train, commuter, ferry, and stuff like that. So what I actually can do is I can take all of these and create an intent. So in this case, I want to create an transport type entity. So let's go back into the portal, and we will select slot type, and we're going to add a slot type. So here we create a new custom type, transportation type, and we create slot type. So here we can add the different values that we want this specific slot type to have. So in this case, ship, tram, train, metro, bus. And we can also add, well, ship could be named ferry. Actually, ship is the name of whatever the Stockholm Travel API is using. So I will get ship back even though if I say ferry. Commuter train, commuter. Subway. So I realized that I should probably have underground here as well. I do have that, actually, but I don't have that in the slides. And then we can just save the model. So now we can add an intent slot. So I'm going to name this transportation. I'm going to click Add, and I will get to choose a slot type. So if I click that, I will actually be able to select my transportation type. So if I then type in my utterance, when does the next, and then I add a curly bracket, I would get a list of all the slot types I have in my intent. So I want to use the transportation one. So it's going to look like it. When does the next transportation leave? So it's going to handle bus, tram, ferry, ship, well, all of them. I also want to add another intent. Now this is the one called line. I want this called line, and I just create the intent. Now I want an integer. I want this to be a number. So I want this to understand numbers. So I add a new intent slot called number. Line number. And then I type num, and then I'm seeing Amazon.number. So this is an integer. It's going to handle if I say 818. It's going to figure out that was 818. It's going to figure out if I say 818. It's going to probably figure out if I say 818 as well. And I also want to add a intent slot for my transport type here as well, because I want to be able to say the 818 bus. So I'm going to add that as well. So now we have two utterances. We have when does the next transport type leave, and we also have the when does the next line number transport type leave. Now the next thing is we're going to fix the configuration. Now, as I mentioned, a Windows Development MVP, I like Azure. So I'm actually going to host this in Azure. So instead of selecting AVS, I'm going to select HTTPS. And then enter the URL to my bot. Now, we haven't built that yet. We're going to do that in just a minute. But this would be the URL for that one. We also do we provide geographical region endpoints? No, we don't. We're just satisfied with our bot living in Europe, for example. We don't need any account linking. Now, when I did this presentation, Sweden was we couldn't get Alexa in Sweden. There was actually no way for us to enter our home address into Alexa. It's only worked with UK, Germany, and the US. Apparently, there was a way to actually post JSON into to Amazon to fix this, but they fixed it. I didn't think they fixed it. I think they broke it, but okay. But now it's actually going to come to Sweden in just a couple of months, I guess. So in this sample, I'm not handling the device address, but I'm going to show you how to do that with the other platforms. Then we go to SSL certificate. For our development purposes, let's just say that this is development endpoint, and it's a subdomain that actually has a wildcard certification, which Azure has. And we need to actually check that we want this to be testable. This means that if I have the same account here as I have on my Alexa, this is just going to work. We also have some publishing information. In our case, it's travel and transportation. It's public transportation. I'm not supplying any test instruction at this point because we're just developing it. And I'm fine with this being available in all countries. So it's time to get some code done. So the first thing we need to do is install the package alexaskills.net. alexaskillskit.net. So let's take a look at some code. Sweet. Actually, let's start with the controller. So this is just a web API project. At the point when I did this the first time, Botframework didn't support .NET Core. I'm not sure if it does now. Can everyone see the does it? Or okay. When I did this demo, it did not, because it needed some serialization that was not in the .NET Core. So this is just a normal web API project. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say that I have an API controller. I'm going to create an Alexa speechlet, and I'm just going to send the request straight into that one and let that handle it. So in our Alexa speechlet, I'm actually just deriving from speechlet, and that's a class that is available in the NuGet package. Let's see here. So in this case, I'm doing it very, very simple. I'm saying if the request intent name I'm getting in is line or next transportation, because I'm going to handle these just the same way. So if I have, in both cases, I know that I have a transport type. So I'm going to get the transport type just by saying intent request, intent.slots, and transport type and the value. Now, when it comes to line number, I might have a line number. So I'm actually going to check that. I guess it would be better practice than actually checking if I get a transport type as well. But for this sample, I haven't. So in this case, I'm checking, does these slots contain line number? And if it does, I'm going to set it. And then I'm going to use the Stockholm travel helper, get departure response, and then I'm actually hard coding a stop place because, well, if I'm in London, it's going to go, well, we don't have any stops near you. And I'm going to send in line number and transport type. So this is going to return to me a response. Let's see. And it's going to actually supply me with the speech response in SSML. I'm just going to reply that back. Here's also an example where the console intent, help intent, and stop intent. I haven't implemented these, but I should. And I also have a default one that is going to just, let's see if I can. I'm not sure what you mean. And let's take a look at the, let's see where that is. So let's just take a look at what this does. So it gets the stop ID, the line number, and transport type. It's going to set the time zone to my time zone. It's going to get all the departures from this stop ID, line number, and transport type. And it's just going to get paragraph towards wherever sort leaves in, and in how many minutes. And it's also going to, let's see, yeah, here. It's also going to create a card. And that's for Cortana, but we'll come back to that in just a minute. So let's return to the presentation. All right, let's see if this works then. Alexa, ask Stockholm Travel when the next bus arrives.
807 towards Gullmarsplan leaves in 2 minutes. 806
Alexa, stop. That just works fine. And you hear Gullmarsplan. I have nothing. So what do we get? We have actually successfully deployed. We have an Alexa bot or skill working. What do we get? An achievement. Yes, we did it. So let's try and get things done with Google Home as well. So Google Home, we will actually use dialogflow.com. So let's go to that site. So the beautiful thing with Dialogflow is that it will give us the opportunity to add different kind of integrations. So we will get all of these. We get web, we get actions on Google, we get Facebook, Slack, Viber, Twitter, Twilio, Skype, Trupo, Telegram, oh wait, let's go back there. There we go. We get the direct line, and we actually get Kik as well. So we get a lot of these things. We're going to create one bot, and we can use all of these integrations, much like Botframework, but we'll get back to that in just a minute. So for Dialogflow, we're going to go into the portal. We're going to add a agent name up there. We're going to name it Stockholm Travel. We're going to make sure that it has the right time zone and stuff like that. I'm not going to use the version 2 API because it's in beta. And we can just click create. Now, this looks familiar, right? We have intents, we have entities, just as before. So I'm going to go a little bit faster. So the first thing we have a default intent. So this is the first one that is going to get triggered when we access the Google Home intent. The Home intent action. So it looks kind of like this. We have a welcome, we have different parameters, and we actually have a couple of text responses. So the first thing, when I get connected to Google Home, it's going to say, hi, hello, good day, greetings, or anything like that. Now, let's go into entities. We're going to create a new entity. This is just like the entities before. So this is going to be transport type. We're going to create ship, tram, train, and here we actually have underground. And we're just going to click save. So the next thing is we're going to create an intent. We name this line, just as before. We're going to say, when does the next 818 bus leave? And then we can just select that, and we're going to get a menu down here for some reason. I have no idea why it's not up there, but we're going to get it down here. And we're going to type, if this could just start working again. And we're just going to type integer, and we're going to use the sys number integer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select bus. And the same thing there, we're going to type transport type and select that. There we go. And then we're going to create another intent. Now we already know how to do that. So we're going to create, when does the next bus leave, without a number. Same thing again. We're going to select bus, we're going to select transport type, and click save. Now we're up to integration. So this is where we select what kind of different platforms are we going to expose our skill or action. So we want the Google Assistant one. So let's click that one. We're going to get this menu. So which intent is going to get triggered? What's up with that? Yeah. Which intent is going to get triggered? So we just can leave this and just click test. Let's see. There we go. So now we actually have everything working, but we want to inject our own code into this. So this is what is called fulfillments. So let's just enable those. There we go. And enter the URL for our web API. We can add authentication as well, but we're not going to do that for this sample. So next up, we need to go back to our intents and actually click this fulfillment use webhook. We didn't see that before. We'd see it when we actually enable fulfillment. So we click use webhook on every one of the intents we created down there. We also have a result location. This is one, you just create one that is called result.location. And it needs to have this name, actions_intent_permission. So this is going to let us ask the location of the Google device. And I will show you how the code works. Now, let's go to the settings menu. In settings, we will have to actually create the action on another portal. So we go to the actions on Google portal. Here we will be able to add like the name, we will add details about it, we will add what kind of invocation do we have, what kind of things can we say, do we want a female or male version voice, can add some pictures, contact info, privacy details, and stuff like that. So let's start doing some coding. So we're going to install the package API AI SDK. There is one from Google as well, but that's for the version 2 APIs. So let's stick with the version 1 for now. So in our, let's see here, we have the dialog flow controller. Now this is going to look pretty much the same. We get an intent name. We say, well, the default welcome intent. If we get the default welcome intent, I'm actually going to get the user location permission. So this one is going to send out a specific JSON. Looks something like this. So I'm going to ask for the location. To find the closest stop to your location, please say yes. And it actually has a couple of built-in responses as well. So let's go back. So what's going to happen is that this is going to send back to get the closest stop to you. We want to grab your location from your Google profile. Is this okay? And I would say yes. And then I will get back to the result location. So this is something that is built into Dialogflow. So in this case, I'm going to get the location coordinates. I'm actually not going to figure out which one is closest stop because this is a demo. But I could have done that with just these lines. And then I'm going to say, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. And then I will be able to ask the next thing. So I will be able to say, when does the next bus leave? And then I will come into one of these cases. So next transportation and/or line. And for those, I'm going to check, does it contain a line number? Yes, it does. Then set line number. Does it contain transport type? Here I'm actually checking for that. Set transport type. And then just as before, get the departure response and set the exact same speech response as for Alexa. So let's see if we actually can do this.
By the way, the mic's off. To turn it back on, slide.
The
mic's back on.
The mic's back on. Hey Google, talk to Stockholm Travel.
Sure, here's the test version of Stockholm Travel.
To find the closest stop to your location, I'll just need to get your street address from Google. Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
When does the next bus leave?
807 towards Brandbergen Centrum leaves in 3
Hey
minutes.
Google, stop. Let's just, and it
The
works.
mic's off.
And it's basically the same code. So imagine if you got an achievement last time, you're going to get another one, right? So let's go into Cortana. So Cortana, we're going to use the bot framework. Now, I can't believe they didn't name it botnet framework. Come on, it's a much better name. But okay, bot framework. So we're going to the portal. We'll get a list of all the bots we have available. We're going to create a new bot. We're going to click create again. And for this, we want to actually register an existing bot because we're going to use our own web API site. So let's select that one. Then we will add some different information with display name. We have a bot handle, which is the invocation name, some kind of description. And then we will click this create Microsoft App ID and password. That will take us to a completely other site where we will get everything filled out for us. And we're just going to click create, generate an app password and continue. This will give us an application password that we're going to copy and save for later. And we're going to click OK. And then we will get back to the Botframework portal. Everything is going to be filled in just nicely. And we can finish and go back to Botframework. So the messaging endpoint is going to be the endpoint for our web API service. We get everything else filled in. We have analytics. We're not going to bother with that, but we could. And we're going to say that, well, I'm the admin. This is going to work with my Cortana and stuff like that. And just click register. And the bot is created. Now, the beautiful thing with Bot Framework is that it works just as Dialogflow does. It got Twilio, Facebook, Slack, email, Teams, Skype, GroupMe, Bing. This is actually pretty cool. I don't know, how is Bing here? Is Bing mainly used here? Anything? No? That's the same with Sweden. So Bing is actually pretty good in the United States. But in Sweden, or apparently in the UK, it's not. But with the Bing API here, I can actually get my bot in. If I search for Stockholm travel, for example, I will get that in the Bing UI. So I can actually ask questions that are right there in the Bing UI. That's pretty cool. Also, the Skype integration is actually used by Dialogflow. So if you click, yeah, I want to Skype integration in Dialogflow, it's going to take you here. So then we will get this menu. So what we want to do, we want to add Cortana to this. So we click that and we get this, and same thing as with Google, we enter display name, invocation name, some information, short description. And we also say that, well, I want some extra data. I want user profile data. So in this case, I want this semantic location.current, and I'm going to save it as a user-friendly name current location. This means that I will have access to the user's current location. So if I'm out and about with my Windows phone, my Apple phone or Android phone, I'm actually going to be able to use Cortana and get my current location. So this is going to look something like this. Now, the next step is actually getting all these intents and stuff like that. And then we need to go to Lewis.ai. So Lewis.ai looks like this. So we're going to create a new app. We're going to name it Stockholm Travel. It has nothing to do with the previous name. I can name it whatever I like, but we're going to name it Stockholm Travel. We're not going to select the key. We're going to get back to that in just a second. And we're going to click Create. Now, we have intents, we have entities. We know these, right? This is just the same as before. So we're going to create an intent. Sorry, we're going to create an entity first. We're going to create a custom entity. We're going to name it transport type. Again, it's going to be a list. We're going to add the bus, metro, train, and stuff like that, and other synonyms to that. We're also going to add a pre-built entity. In this case, we're going to use a number, just as before. And we're going to click Save. Now we have those two entities that we needed. We're going to create an intent. We're going to go to intent. We're going to create a new one, next transportation. When does the next bus leave? And then we're going to click Enter. And this is actually going to identify that, well, I said bus. Bus is part of the transport type. So it's automatically going to select that. Same thing with if I write next 807 bus leave, it's going to figure out, yeah, that's a number, that's a transport type. That's pretty nice. I can also test my application, test if it's actually working. I need to say train my application. Don't need to do that for the other ones. So I'm going to train it. When does the next bus leave? It's probably the line intent. Then it's time to actually assign the key. Now the key we need to actually get. We'll show a list of keys. We need to add a new key entry, and we need to go to Azure. So this. I think that the bot framework is actually the most powerful, at least if you're working in the Microsoft area. But it's kind of a mess, like you have to go to all the different portals and stuff like that. So go to Azure. You create a new, and you search for cognitive services. So you create a new one. Wait for a couple minutes. And then we're going to name this Stockholm Travel Lewis. We're going to name we're going to search here for the Language Understanding Intelligence Service. So that's why it's called Lewis. We actually get a 5 calls per second or 10,000 calls per month for free. That's pretty nice. Or you can actually pay for it as well. Actually have an existing resource group, so let's just go with that one. And then I can click the Show Access Keys. Then it's going to show me the name and my awesome key. Perfect. So let's write that down, and I'm going to add this to the key value, my awesome key. And then we're actually ready for publishing. So let's see why this is. There we go. And then we can just click Publish. So to do a Cortana bot, we use the Microsoft Bot Builder. This is actually an old version, but you should always use the latest one, right? And we're going to use the Microsoft Adaptive Cards as well. We actually we also need a couple of values. So we need these values. So the bot ID we get from the bot framework. So the name of the bot, in our case, Stockholm Travel. We get the Microsoft App ID. That's the one when we went into a portal. So we need that application ID. And we need the password as well. And then we need the Lewis subscription key from Azure and the Lewis model ID. So that's the name of the Lewis, the app ID in Lewis AI. So let's take a look at the code. So for Lewis, we actually have the bot framework controller. We're going to get the model ID. We're going to get the subscription key. We're going to get the Lewis model. And then we're going to get a root Lewis adaptive card dialog. So that's a dialog. That's a class that I've created. And we're going to send in the Lewis service into that. So in this case, if it's a message, we're just going to send it to that activity. Otherwise, we have some other code down here for handling the delete user, conversation update, typing, and stuff like that. So let's take a look at the Lewis adaptive card dialog. Now, Bot Framework has something that I really like, because Alexa and Google Home, I actually had to have switching case. In this case, I have an attribute saying Lewis intent none or Lewis intent empty string is the I don't know what you're talking about. Lewis intent line is the one where I get this method is actually going to get called if that intent is triggered. The same thing with next transportation. Now, both of these, in the other samples, I had both of these using the exact same code. In this case, I have that as well. I'm actually going to get the message activity, same thing up there. I just wanted to show you that you can actually do this in different methods. So here we do the exact same thing, right? We actually get the transport type, we get the built-in number, we get the departure response. We create a message, we set the text, we set the speech, and then we have the adaptive card part. So adaptive cards is a way to create a much nicer looking response for the different platforms. So in this case, this isn't anything Cortana specific. This is going to look nice on Skype. It's going to look nice on Teams and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an attachment that is, let me see here. Where is that? There. The response.card. So let's take a look at that method. Where are you? There you are. So here I'm actually creating an adaptive card. I'm actually adding columns. I'm adding labels and stuff like that. And in the loop, I'm actually adding to the current column line. I'm adding towards in the second column and the time in the third column. So it's going to actually look a little bit nicer. So when I invoke this for the first time, let me see there. Cortana is going to show me this message. So it's going to say, is it okay that I connect to the Stockholm travel skill? I'm actually going to leave, I'm going to send your location, frequent placement to current location, and I'm going to send your request to that skill. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, that's fine. And the response will look something like this. So let's see, I'm not sure that I'm actually going to be able to show you guys. Let's see if we can do that. Oh, come on. Yes. The reason I'm not actually speaking to Cortana now is that I'm not sure which screen it's going to show up on. So it's not, it could be a very, very big demo file. All right. We got it working. So in summary, these are the sites you need to visit. You have the dialog flow, API.ai SDK, Botframework, portal in Azure, Lewis AI, and these two NuGets. Now, I would say that take the chance to actually build stuff for this right now. Because when the robot uprising starts, we all know what will come next. Thank you.
Now, I've got a few minutes for questions. If anyone would like to ask me anything. No? Okay, fine. Wow. Okay. I guess that must have been pretty clear then. Everyone's brilliant. Okay, let's just take a brief comfort break. There's a little bit of pizza left. I didn't realize you hyenas had eaten most of it. I thought there was going to be a lot left, but no. There's a little bit left, a few more beers, and then we'll have Jessica's going to do her NDC talk 2 days ahead of NDC. When she's not up against Scott Hanselman. So this is the place to be. Okay, so we'll start again in like 5 minutes.
Let's test if this microphone is on. No?
Okay, come on, sit down. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. NDC talk by Jessica. Yay!
NDC talk. I'm not at NDC now, am I? No. See, you're first. Hi. Thank you so much for actually staying, even though you got beer and pizza and you could actually leave. So thank you so much. I need to tell you something before. Jimmy talked about the fun pronunciation of Swedish stops, right? So our place, we live in a place called Guda, which in English, American English, is go die. Yeah. So I don't know if Alexa doesn't like me or if it's something else. I don't know. It's probably personal. How many of you guys, I know how many of you guys actually have a device, but how many of you have actually tried it? And like an Alexa, Siri, Google, Cortana, all of you. Awesome. This is a voice user interface is really, really growing rapidly right now. And that is actually one of the reasons we are including UX as part of our future tech that we work in our company, because UX will become so much more important in the future. Actually, we're even talking to our cars today. And I have no clue how to turn on and off the lights in our house. We lived there for 6 months. I have no clue which light switch goes to which lamp. So when internet is off, which actually happened the other day, I have no clue. I have to go flick every single switch to know how to turn on the lights, because usually one of the assistants does it for me. And then I mean digital assistants. I don't have like a personal assistant going around, even though that would be nice. But some people actually are quite hesitant to talk to these kind of devices because you look kind of foolish, don't you? It's like when we got the headsets for the Bluetooth headset for the phone, and you were like, he's either insane or really drunk, or it was a Bluetooth headset. But I think that part of that is actually if they're trying a crappy app or something similar, or they don't know how to do it, and they say something and they mumble, and they, whatever bot you're using isn't understanding, and then it's like, no, it doesn't work. And that's why it's so important with UX for voice, because if you can catch that, they will have a so much better experience and come back. All the big companies, like Jimmy talked about, are actually pouring a lot of money into this. We have Amazon and Apple and Microsoft, and I don't know, basically everyone is doing this. But why is it getting so popular? Well, you speak at a rate about 150 words per minute, and you type on average around 40. So even if you're like an expert typer, you will still be able to do things faster with your voice. Unless you're one of those auctioneers, you actually can speak up to 300 words per minute. Isn't that insane? 300 words. I thought I spoke fast. So actually, why do I want to take up my phone, click my browser, go in there and type a search when I can just ask it directly? It takes so much longer time. So no, if I can just ask it when's the next Avenger movie, that will be awesome if they could just tell me. So let's look at some predictions for voice. So by the year 2020, 50% of all searches will be made by voice. 50%. You know how much we search? It's a lot. 30% of all searches will be done by voice without a screen. So no screen at all, not even your cell phone. It's more like the Alexa and Google Home and things like that. And 75% of all US households, this is the only number I could get, but the US household will have a smart speaker at home. We have 8 for now. Yeah, you don't need that many. You need like 1 or 2, but you have to try them all, right? 40% of all adults today are using voice at least once per day. 40% and at least once per day. Cortana, as Jimmy said, has over 145 million active monthly users. The Echo Dot, again, as Jimmy said, a lot of repetitiveness here, but we'll soon get over it. Best-selling product of Amazon, all categories, all price classes, everything. Tens of millions of devices during the holidays. That's insane. 400 million devices available, has Google available. You can even have Google Assistant on your TVs now. 95% that actually has a smartphone has used the personal assistant at some point. That is a high number, 95%. So as developers, we can actually take advantage of this. And this is what we really need to take advantage of. Most people learn how to speak at a really young age. So they already know this. You don't have to teach them to do anything. Some people speak more than others, but still, we speak. So in this part of today, I will go through what to think about before we even start, how to plan out your voice user interface, and what to consider to get the most out of your voice user interface. My goal is to give you some tools and understanding on how to think when beginning designing for voice user interfaces. Actually, you can get a step ahead of the competition already, so that's always good. My name is Jessica Engström. I'm a Windows Development MVP, just like Jimmy. Yeah, well, he basically said everything. He knows everything. No, I'm just kidding. We've been speaking to our house for 18 years. And as he said, it was not beautiful in the beginning. We are Star Trek fans, so we were excited when we actually put down. Remember those microphones that you had on for the computer you had on the desk? Yeah, those we put up on in the ceiling, so they were dangling on top above our couch, so we could say "computer, dim lights." It was so cool. Sometimes it even worked. Today it's much better. So nowadays we can talk to devices in really small devices, really small screens, like the Microsoft Band or other smartwatches, and things that have really tiny places for a UI. And then it will be really important to actually know what they want to do and what they can and cannot do for them. And you can actually tell them, which means they will learn and it's easier for you, and well, that's always good. And you don't have to do that user interface on a really tiny screen, because that is not fun to do. You can fit anything. So we can take advantage of that. But before we start to plan, we need to ask us a few questions. And the first and most important question is, will the user actually benefit from a voice user interface? Or is it just like a cool thing we want to implement because it's a new thing? Because it is the cool new thing, right? And we do want to work with it, but if they don't benefit from it, it won't be that good. And you should only do that if it actually improves the user interface or the experience for the user, I say anyway. Voice user interfaces will be continuing to get really good, and you can actually be part of that revolution, because it is a revolution. The numbers you see, it's like we started over here and then it's like skyrocketing right now. And a lot of people are actually predicting that we will have less or fewer and fewer screens. So the cell phones will go away, and we will only have like a screen, one screen, and everything else will be done by automation or voice or things like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, we really need to start working on this right now. Most large companies, like Jimmy showed, has different frameworks, so we can actually take advantage of this, and they will give us a lot of tools. So that's really good. Wasn't that hard. He did 3 bots in 1 hour, so that is good. So let's think about, when is a voice user interface a good idea? Well, it's a good idea if I'm home and want to play music, right? Or ask when the next Avengers movie has premiered and things like that. Turn on my lights. Obviously, I can't do that manually. You already know that. Looking up something if I'm on the go, or even in the car and things like that, when I'm actually not allowed to use my cell phone or shouldn't do my cell phone, then it's really, really good. As long as I can do that without awkwardness and embarrassment, it's a good thing. Because there is also examples when we shouldn't use it, like this is not playing. Have you seen this before? It's from the Christmas cartoon. No? He has like a sticker. So this is a live interpretation of a GIF that's not showing. He has a sticker and he puts it on Pluto's mouth, and it says, "Do not open until Christmas." Yeah, much more fun if you can actually see. You had to be there. Well, when is it not a good idea? Imagine if you have like some embarrassing disease or something, and you have your cell phone goes off and says, "Oh, don't forget to take your pill for..." Nah, in the bus. Or if you stand in line at the grocery store and you're really bored, so you're going through your emails and it reads it out loud, and all of a sudden you get a NDA content and it reads it up, so the whole store knows it. No, not a good idea. So there are actually really bad versions of implementations for voice as well. Oh, now it plays. Yeah. Did I describe it correctly? I'm glad. And now it stopped. This is interesting. Okay. So sometimes it's a good idea to actually think things through before. And speaking of ideas, we also need to think about the idea for your bot. What will it be best at? So a common problem, not only when it comes to voice user interface, but to all apps and things out there, is that you try to be the next thing. You try to be the next Instagram and Facebook and what have you in the same app. But you don't have to be the new Twitter app if you're a news app, right? But it gets like you have no clue what this app is good for, and you're actually diluting all your resources to do all these things instead of being best at one thing and then adding the other things on afterwards. And it's the same thing with voice. If you do like a pizza bot app, do you want it to tell jokes? Sure, it's fun, but you don't know why would it tell jokes? Isn't it better to have a joke app and a pizza app, or do you want one in all of it? Then you should probably just use like Google Home or Cortana or Alexa. They already do jokes and stuff like that. So try saying that my app is best in its category at, and then you fill in like a short descriptive sentence that is not being an app, because that's not helpful. But try to narrow it down. This is really, really helpful. My app is best in its category at showing departure times for Jimmy's app, for instance. Being this specific can also help you sort out the non-important scenarios that you might not need to put that much effort in Also try finding out why your solution is better or best at whatever it's best at. Like what makes your app unique, because there will be like a gazillion bots out there, if there's not even today. But it's really important when you add voice, because otherwise you will end up with that weather app that's doing fart jokes and ordering pizza. And I don't know, anyone want that app? You want? Yeah, of course Jimmy wants that app. I said fart. So he's sold. So now that we have this awesome idea and we know how to make what makes our solution the best, it's time to start planning. So on to the planning, finally. It's good to actually start writing some sample dialogues. And this is really good because you can see everything that the computer or the bot will answer and back and forth like that. So you actually know what it will say to your user. Of course you will know it, but if you do it like a script, like a movie script, for instance, or like a readable script, you will actually filter out those semi-awkward things that can sound really good when you're writing it, but if you put them together, it will be non-conversational feel to it and can be a little bit stilted. So write a movie script. Sounds crazy, but it's really, really helpful, because then you will catch exactly what will happen and what you are saying in your conversation. Pick like 5 of the most common or important things you can do in your app. Best use cases for your app, voice user interface, and write down the dialogue so you can do that. And yeah, 5. And also write 5 scenarios when things go really bad, or you get no reception, or Wi-Fi goes down, or you don't understand what the user is saying and things like that. Also 5 of those, so you have the top 5 of everything. Read it out loud. This sounds really stupid because you are writing it and you're hearing it in your head, but it is different when you're actually reading it. Even better, have your friend or coworker read it with you, so you have 1 part each, because then you will really know if it's awkward. That's a really powerful tool to enhance the user experience for a voice user interface. So when you're done with your movie script or your bot script or what have you, we can do some sketching. And this sounds also a little bit interesting when it's a voice user interface, right? But if you sketch out the voice user interface flow, that's what I'm talking about. This is simple diagrams that illustrates what happens, or the different paths that can be taken through the bot or the system, if you will. So what you do is you list all the different ways the user can branch in your app. So they can ask, can I order a pizza? And then you have yes or no, or maybe, or a fart joke, if that's what you want to do in your pizza app, I don't know. So let's say we're designing the same skill that Jimmy just did, and we can tell when the next bus leaves from GoDie. No, I'm just kidding. So we can ask a lot of questions here, or we can ask the same question in a lot of ways. And this was called utterances, right? Do you see the text? Yeah, I'm right in the way. Awesome. But we don't have to put in every single utterance in this flow, because that will take forever and ever. What we do is we group them together. So this is what Jimmy called intent before. So here is the intent: when does the next bus arrive, which is basically the same thing as when does the next bus leave, and so on. So that box is a collection of utterances. So now we only have to sketch our intents. So here we have the whole thing. Do you know when the next bus leaves? Yeah, we have yes or no. We don't have a fart jokes in any, which is surprising because it was Jimmy who was doing this app. version 2, I think. If you have a more open-ended voice user interface, like let's say the next Cortana or Alexa or things like that, or something where you have a massive amount of question and data, it's better to actually put them in categories instead. So you don't put every single intent. You put like categories, like calendars or search or messaging or things like that. So you have the categories instead of the intents if you have a lot of them. One thing that you need to decide when you are designing for a voice user interface is whether or not you should include visuals as well. Jimmy actually showed visuals for Cortana, for instance. Will your bot or app actually have a screen available, like a mobile phone or a smartwatch or anything like that? And if it does have a screen, do you want to opt in or out of that? If you have a screen available, do you want to support that? That is also a question. And do you want to use a visual avatar to represent your brand or app here, like a mascot or as you've seen probably in customer services and things like that, there's a woman talking. A visual representation will make it a little bit more clearer to the user. It's clearer when they can speak, what they can say, how when they need to act on something, and so on. And they also have a little bit more leeway when it comes to timing, because usually you need to time out if you can't listen forever, right? Especially if you're on a wearable or a cell phone or so. So you need to time out if you're listening, but if you actually put up visual, you can leave it there because there's no timeout for that, so they can actually act on it there. So decide that as well. Important thing though is that if you do visuals, it's important that you have that all through the experience, not just in the beginning or the end, like you have it all the way through, because otherwise it will be a little bit awkward because you don't know if you should I bring up the phone now or is it later? Yeah. So that can be awkward. There's a lot of awkwardness in UX. So if you decide that visuals actually is a good idea, which it usually is, you should do some sketches or mock-ups. And they don't have to be beautiful. They just have to tell you what happens when you are in different stages, because then you are in full control of the conversation and also what the user will be seeing all the time. So let's say we are building a pizza bot, because I talked about pizza, we have pizza here, right? So why not? So I want to order a large pepperoni pizza, please. So this is the bot now. 1 large pepperoni pizza, please. 1 large pepperoni pizza, is that correct? Yes. Okay, adding 1 large pepperoni pizza to your order. Place order. Your order is 1 large pepperoni pizza. Shall I place the order? Well, I kind of ask you like 2 times. Yes, please. Because if I'm not kind to these bots, they will kill me last or first. Well, they will kill me first, so I'm kind of nice to them. So this is what it takes basically to order a pizza if we don't have visuals. So if we instead try to combine it with visuals, it will be more something like this. I want to order 1 large pepperoni pizza. Why is it pepperoni pizza? I don't even eat pepperoni. I should do like a mushroom pizza or something. Yeah. No, pepperoni pizza, please. 1 large pepperoni pizza, is that correct? And then you show the visual. Because what happens now is the bot doesn't have to wait for me to go through these other layers we had to do, because they are showing it here, and I can place the order by clicking the button or by voice. But it also already showing that this pizza, they have got it wrong because this is a chicken bacon ranch pizza thingy. So I can actually correct that from this screen as well. Because imagine if I was going to say it all over again, it would be even longer, right? So I can also remove the item from here. And if I want to ask Jimmy, like, did we want pepperoni on the pizza? I actually have time to do that while I wait for him to answer. I can click the button when I'm done. If I'm doing that by voice, I had to start all over again. So the visuals is a way to confirming whatever is happening. So it's really good. If you can use it, it's really a good idea. It's also good because the user will know if they were understood. Because sometimes when you talk to these devices, you say something and you don't hear anything back. And I don't, did she turn on the light or not? I don't know. Or even worse, if it's turning on and off the heat. How would you know? You wouldn't know like for an hour later or something. So understanding how the user knows what, no, understanding how the user knows how to understand. That's not a correct sentence, is it? No. We need to make sure that the user knows that we understand and that they understand us and vice versa. So confirmation is really good. So we're going to look at a few things, a few ways to actually confirm or use confirmation, if you will. If you are designing for devices that is voice first and does not have visuals, this will be so much more important because they can't see if the pizza was wrong. You need to tell them, right? So one way of doing this is using thresholds. And a confidence threshold is what I was going to say. So a confidence threshold is how the speech recognition engine thinks they performed. That is how they think they understood me. So if I say, order me a dollhouse, and the confidence might be different from whatever time I'm saying it. It can be background noise, I can be mumbling or whatever. Perhaps it's like 80-90% sure that I said that. Maybe it's only 45% sure, but we do get that number back. So we can actually use that information in our app to know if we should execute on this or not. And that is really powerful. Have you heard the story about the girl in the dollhouse on Alexa? No? Some of you have, yeah. So not everyone, so I'm going to tell it anyway. So this girl, she scored the dollhouse. I'm not kidding you. If there's a dollhouse you want, this is the one. It was like taller than her and super expensive and on Amazon. So her mom had gotten Alexa, and this daughter loved playing with Alexa or talking to her. So one day she goes up to Alexa and say, "Hey Alexa, do you want to play dollhouse with me and get me a dollhouse?" And she got the dollhouse because it didn't use threshold. So it doesn't stop here. I mean, this is funny enough, but it doesn't stop here. What happened is that there was no news this week. So the local news actually got a hold of this, and that's why there's a lot of good pictures and stuff on her. So they interviewed her, and when they come back from interviewing her, they sat like a couple of hosts on air, and they were saying live, "I can't imagine how she's so smart. How did she know how to say, Alexa, get me a dollhouse?" Allegedly, there was a lot of dollhouses sold that day because the people who were actually having an Alexa and watching this show, I don't know. But it also it goes to show that you really need to think about these threshold, the confirmations and stuff like that. They did fix it later, so you actually had a level even higher level to actually buy the freaking dollhouse. But I don't know, they may have run out of dollhouses. So if they had instead looked at the the confidence of order me a dollhouse, they would have known that it's a child, because children generally have a lot less threshold, confidence threshold, because they are their vocal cords aren't developed yet. So if it's well, there's different ways to use this these kind of confirmations and thresholds. So let's say if we want to use a 3-tiered confidence, this is the one they would actually have benefit from. So if the confidence threshold is, let's say, between 45 and 80%, we use an explicit confirmation to say, I think you want me to order a dollhouse, is that correct? Would have saved them a dollhouse or their mom. If it's lower than, well, let's say go with 45, we can just say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat? And if it's over 80, we can use an implicit confirm and say, dollhouse order is on the way. And these numbers, you can yourself decide. So if you want to be really, really sure, you can be like in 90, 95%, so you don't accidentally confirm something explicitly. Another method is to actually confirm implicitly every single time, so you don't have to double check with the user. No, the other way around. We should confirm things explicitly in this particular example. So if we ask, what is the best superhero movie? They would, of course, answer, the best superhero movie is Deadpool. You don't have to. Yeah, you agree, right? Good. There's always at least one fan. So what we did here is we don't ask them, oh, do you want me to tell you the best superhero movie? Yes, please. Oh, the best superhero movie is, that would be just ridiculous, right? So if it's not really super important, we can do this implicitly. Burger King targeted Google Home owners in an ad. Have you seen this ad? Did you get it here? No, you didn't get it here, but a few of you have seen it. This is really good. Do we have sound on this? Do we know if we have sound? We don't have sound? That kind of ruins the thing.
I'm not sure.
Okay, we will try. Yeah, that I do know how to do. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Turn off your mic.
My mic? Yeah, let's do that. Oh, so on means on. Cool. So this happened, and that's not really good for your brand, is it? no. They switch it back because they realize, oh, you can change Wikipedia. So they were putting some intern actually changing it all the time, but they couldn't keep up. So they actually have to stop invoking this commercial. So that's nice. But it's fun for us at least. Sometimes we ask our voice user interface to complete a task, like turn on my kitchen table lights or something like that. And you can ask yourself, do we really need to confirm that they understood when I actually can see that they turned on the light? Do they need to say, yes, I will turn on the living room lights, or things like that? Or is it good enough just to flick the lights? Well, that's for you to decide. But I will say this, if there's an action that the user wants you to perform and it takes like 5 seconds or longer, it's a good idea to actually say something, because otherwise you don't know if it happened. And like I said before, if you're doing this, turn off the heater or draw me a bath or whatever that I can't actually see when I'm in the room I'm in, then you need to confirm, because otherwise it will be that awkward silence, like, do I tell her again or what? So that can be a, if I actually ask Alexa to turn on my living room lights, she will repeat like, no, she will answer, okay. So it's just like a tiny little thing, and I will know that she will eventually turn on the light when she gets around to it, which is usually instantly. Sometimes in conversational UIs, I should say, we don't have to act on the information we get from the user. Perhaps we have a more open dialogue. Let's say I have an app, an alarm app or bot. So when I get up, I turn off my alarm and it says, good morning, how's your morning, or how did you sleep? And I can answer, oh, good, thank you. You don't have to act on good, thank you, like parsing through what can I answer to this. You can give a more generic, automatic reply like, thank you for sharing, and things like that. So we are not actually confirming, it's just like a generic thing. And this is the visual confirmation. I'm getting a headache, so my words is really not coming out of my mouth as it should do. So this is the visual confirmation that Jimmy talked about earlier. This is if I ask Cortana to show my to-do list. What you could do is, of course, read them up, but I have like 4,500 things on my to-do list, and that will take probably a week to read up. Or if you have the opportunity, you could just show them on their screen. This is on the PC. You can also do that on the phone or whatever. But if you are on a device that you do not have a screen, you could, for instance, not read 4,500 items, but you can read a few, like a 3 or something, and ask if do you want me to continue? Do you want to hear more? And etc. So it doesn't feel like they're overwhelming you with data, but you can still have the option to get more data if you want to. It will be so much easier to consume the data. So there are a few things we need to consider when it comes to voice user interface. Like, are you going to have a command and control or conversational mode in your app? Conversational user interfaces, it's been around for a while, and you hear it everywhere, right? Everything is conversational. Everything, single thing is conversational. I recently talked to Cortana. So it looked a little bit like this. I asked her, who are you? How old are you? She's not that old. She's 4 years old. I continue to ask where she's from and how are you today? She even responded to that. She's excellent. She has an awesome favorite superhero. I mean, come on, that is amazing. And she can actually turn into Yoda. I even asked her if she likes her job, which she, of course, do. And I thanked her and we were done. So did I just have a conversation with her, or did I not? Or did we just have a bunch of one-offs? The majority of voice user interfaces, even if they say they're conversational, is not conversational. They might feel conversational, but they are not technically conversational. They are a bunch of one-offs. We are just having a bunch of one-offs, one after another. There are some exceptions. Both Alexa, Cortana, and Google Assistant have a few exceptions where you actually can have a real conversation within that topic. And it's a very specific topic. So in Google Assistant, you can ask about where the president is born, I think. And they will tell me what city that is, and I can continue and say, is there any good restaurants there, and so on. And there's like 10 or 15 questions around this. We can actually have conversation that we will actually keep the context. But usually, it's just a bunch of one-offs. In Alexa, we can, if I want to order another dollhouse, I can say, order me a dollhouse, and it will say, oh, okay, you bought this deluxe version last time. Do you want the same one? So it's also semi-conversational because it's keeping the context. And that's the thing. To have a conversation, you actually need to have context. You need to be able to actually remember what topic you were talking about. So like you're sitting and talking with your friend and you go up like, I was just in Las Vegas this weekend. It was amazing. And there was tigers and there was parties and there was a lot of things. And you answer, oh, that sounds cool. I really want to go. And I say, come on, let's go next month. And you're like, sorry, I don't understand. Go where? That's not conversational, but that's what we get with most voice user interfaces. You need to remember that we are talking about Las Vegas when I say, let's go there, right? So if you want to be a little bit more constrained, which is probably a good idea because it's really difficult to be generally conversational. And also, if you don't want to handle all the natural language understanding yourself, you can use the command and control mode. So you give them a bunch of commands they can execute. That's it. But if you use this mode, which I highly recommend, also be careful with open questions, because this is the tricky one. If you say, hi, I'm your assistant, how can you help you? You're letting me know that I can do whatever I want. I can have you turn on my lights, I can have you order pizza or whatever. If you're a pizza bot, it's a better idea if you actually say, hi, I'm your pizza bot. Do you want me to order a pizza, or do you want a pizza today, or something like that? So you're actually giving them help and constraint from the beginning what you're able to do. Consider also setting the expectation of the users in the beginning, like I'm the pizza bot, I do pizza. That is really, I don't do fart jokes. So they know what they actually can expect from the beginning, so they don't get disappointed afterwards. You can offer like a guide or tour the first time they start using your bot, or you can even take advantage of the endorphin boost that the user will get when they actually complete their first voice user interaction the first time, and you can build on that and say, oh, you managed this well. Do you know that I can also do whatever, and things like that? And how about trying this? Give clues like Cortana. Try saying, are you a ninja? And I'm sworn to secrecy, so you have to ask her yourself. But this will actually get the user in the kind of mindset what you have to offer, and they won't be disappointed that you're not the next Cortana or Google. Well, now you even get it in pink. Discoverability is another issue that is really important to things like this, especially when it comes to voice. I'd say, how does the user know how they can interact with your bot. Do they know what they can say and things like that? My Windows Phone, I'm a long time Windows Phone user. It broke and I had to go over to the other side, which is Android, and I did not know, and not anywhere in the camera app did it say that I could say cheese and it will take a picture, which is an awesome feature, right? I accidentally saw that on internet somewhere when I was trying to figure out how to actually take a screenshot on my phone. So that discoverability really sucked, but the feature was really good. If you say, use like say cheese in the camera app, that is a really good way to piggyback on what the user would say naturally anyway. I would probably say it anyway, right? So if you can use that, that is really good. Of course, not all of you will be a camera app, but there's other implementation as well. You can also give examples of what they can do or say when you're asking the user a question. Let's say you want their birth date, and if you say, please tell me your date of birth with month, day, and year. Now try to do that. That is, you need to process what they said and you need to translate it to your birth date, right? If you instead say, please give me your birth date like January 29th, 1975, then the user will have so much easier to actually just switch out the dates for themselves. So you have actually taught them how you want the date. Sometimes discoverability isn't enough. The users want to know exactly what they can use. I'm one of those. I want to know exactly what I can do, what I can use. I want all the information. So make sure that the user actually can ask for help or ask what you can do with your solution. It can be a complete list of whatever actions you have. It's like 4,000 things. But you can also say, do you want to know what else I can do? If you just show them like a part of it, if you have a really large amount of actions, you can show only a part of them and ask them if they want to show, if you want to show more. Another important thing is constrained responses. If you say, do you want me to order a pizza? They know that's what you're doing, and you only have yes or no. That's it. Do you want me to order a pizza? Yes or no? So that's kind of constraint, right? But what happens if you say, yeah, sure, of course? Well, if you don't handle that, like Jimmy showed you can handle, then it will not trigger yes. So you need to interpret that as well. Even questions like, what is your favorite animal, has actually constraints, because there are not infinite number of animals out there. There is a finite number. Do we have any Scottish people in the audience? No? Okay, let's try if we can do this by... I'm turning off my microphone again. Oh, you have seen it. Jimmy actually wants to. Oh, that is nice. Jimmy actually wants to get a raccoon, but it's illegal in Sweden. He's really angry about it. He's angry at me for some reason because I don't want him to get a raccoon. Well, they're cute. So if you actually look at what the recognition engine actually returns to us, we usually get something that's called an N-best list. I won't go really deep into this, but this is basically the same thing as, or very similar to the confidence we were talking about earlier. So let's say we ask about your favorite animal, and the user say that has to be a raccoon, because that's how you talk, right? So the system returns a list like this, for instance, and they think with the highest confidence is that must be a balloon. So if we're actually parsing through this, and we can reject that because we don't have that in our animal list. So we can go to the second best, which is raccoon, which happens to be Jimmy's favorite animal. So even if it has a higher threshold, we can parse through that. Sometimes we are not, well, often we are not developing for voice user interfaces like the mainstream ones for Alexa or Google Assistants and so on. Actually, that's probably more common to do that. But if we're not do that, it might be a good idea to think about if you want to use text-to-speech and things like that. Do you want the computer voice you get from text-to-speech, or do you want to have recorded snippets of words or sentences like Jimmy should do with go die instead of Guda? So you can actually secure a little bit more natural phrases. And there's also other things to consider, like do you want to use push to talk, because you don't have that built in if you're not developing for the big mainstream bots. Do you want to have push to talk so the user actually knows that when they press the button they can speak and so on? Or will you always listen like Alexa, but only trigger when you hear the invoke word? There are, of course, a lot other things that you need to consider when it comes to doing your own bots, and this is actually a really good start. And Jimmy showed you how to do it, and I showed you why you should do it in a certain way. Do we have any questions before I summarize this evening? No? You're almost like Swedish people. What's the importance of human factor of testing? On the scale of 1 to 5, I would say 5. It's you need to test it by voice. Of course, you don't need to, but it's really good if you do, because sometimes it you will get suggestions of, oh, you think I said that, so you actually can fill up your utterances, so you know what to listen for. So I would say that's really a good idea. Of course, you don't need to, but you should. Make sense? Awesome. Any more questions? No? So to summarize this part, think through before you plan, and the user will actually, if the user actually will benefit from a voice user interface, and this is the most important part. It's not just cool. Start planning your app with sample dialogue flows and visual mock-ups and things like that, so you actually can see how it will look in real life, and consider other ways to enlighten your solution. I hope that even though we had some technical issues with the sound and stuff like that, that you actually have gotten at least a few tips and tricks and understanding in how you can go about and start your awesome apps with awesome UXs, and actually be ahead of the competition, because that is true. I will actually leave you with a story. This is one of my favorite stories ever. How many of you have tried Siri? About half of you, yeah? Okay. So sometimes things can go really wrong, and sometimes things go really, really good, right? So there was this guy in Springfield, Missouri. He was kind of like me and Jimmy. He loves gadget and he loves home automation, and he realized that his home was dumb. So he decided to go and fix that. So he went to the store, and you can imagine he was buying everything. He was buying thermostats, he was buying smart lamps, and everything basically that has the sign made for what is it called? Apple HomeKit. Thank you. Basically everything. I think he got like 20 Hue lamps or something like that. Crazy amount. And he got home. Basically Christmas, right? And he got home and he set things up, and he put his iPad in the living room, like in the center of the house, and he could control everything from there. And he had his friend over, and he was like, look at this, I can just say, turn on the living room lights and it will go on. And I can say, turn down my heater and things like that. And also, I have this app on my phone I can use, so I can actually let in. He also bought a lock, a Yale doorman lock for his front door. And he said, I can actually let in the dog walker while I'm at work. I don't have to give him a key. And I love that because I don't trust people. He's like, shh, this is really good. You live in the future. And they went to about their day, and this friend was also his neighbor. Next day, the guy comes home from work. He's driving up to park, and his friend sees him and like, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar of you? And he's like, yeah, sure, just let me grab my things. And he's like, no need. And he went up to his door and he said, hey Siri, open the door. Yeah. So things can go really, really bad if you're not thinking things through. And that's kind of my point here. Just test for everything. And poor guy. Imagine his face sitting in the car and watching him open the door for him. Yeah, that could totally happen at our place. So I'm not going to tell you where we live. So please use what you've learned here today and go out there and do great bots and voice user interfaces. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed both of those. It's had some nice low-level coding stuff, some more high-level conversational UX stuff. I think you'll do great at NDC. Good luck. Yeah, if you want to grab another beer, please do. If it's getting late and you need to go and get your train, please do. Or just hang around and chat and grab the people with the Just Eat lanyards and try and get a job doing chatbots, because it's really good here. Thank you. We'll see you at the next one.